Cant Review, print speaking to the blind, celebrating 40 years of audio newspaper production. Welcome to this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast, recorded at the Bishop Briggs Media Centre by our amazing volunteers. You can get in touch with us via Facebook, Twitter or Instagram using @CuneReview, that is @CuneReview. You can also contact us directly by emailing information@cunereview.com, that is INFOR@CUNEREVIEW.com, or by calling 0141 772 3976, that's 0141 772 3976.
The Herald Scotland on Wednesday the 27th of September 2023. From the news section. Ayr Station Hotel. Third teenage boy arrested over fire. An article written by Jodie Harrison and read by me, Corey. A third teenager has been charged following a blaze at a historic train station hotel that is expected to disrupt rail services for days. ScotRail said that it does not expect to be able to run services to or from Ayr Station for at least the next few days, following the fire at the derelict Ayr Station Hotel. Multiple crews were sent to the scene when the alarm was raised shortly after 5:30 p.m. on Monday, with 15 appliances there at the height of the incident. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Services, SFRS, said there were still 2 appliances at the scene on Wednesday morning. Police said on Wednesday that a 13-year-old male has been arrested and charged in connection with the incident, and a report will be sent to the relevant authority. 2 males aged 17 and 13 have already been arrested and charged in connection with the alleged fire raising following the incident. They will both be reported to the relevant authorities and further inquiries are ongoing. It is the second fire this year at the derelict B-listed building. 2 teenagers were charged by police following a blaze there in May. A number of roads in the town are closed as emergency services continue to deal with the latest incident. It has also caused disruption to local train services, with the line closed between Ayr and Girvan and between Ayr and Irvine on Tuesday, September 26th. On Tuesday afternoon, ScotRail tweeted, "Unfortunately, we are not expecting to be able to run services to or from Ayr Station for at least the next few days, following last night's major fire, which @fire_Scot is still fighting. Customers are advised to check their journey on our website, app and social channels for all the latest information." That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was written by Jodie Harrison and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland on Wednesday the 27th of September 2023. From the news section. Glasgow supermarkets. Aldi eyes Cathcart and Clarkston. An article written by Ian McConnell and read by me, Corey. Aldi has revealed it is looking for 2 sites in Scotland as part of its priority locations search. Both sites are on the south side of Glasgow at Clarkston and Cathcart. Aldi, which describes itself as Britain's 4th largest supermarket group, said it is planning to invest £1.4 billion into new stores over the next 2 years. In its annual trading update, Aldi said it had attracted around 1 million extra customers in the past 12 months, with a new generation of savvy shoppers turning their back on traditional full-priced supermarkets. Aldi opened its 1,000th store earlier this month and says it's committed to a long-term target of 1,500 stores in the UK. meaning it is on the hunt for more locations across the UK. The supermarket group said Aldi is searching for freehold town centre, edge of centre and retail park sites suitable for property development. The sites should be able to accommodate a 20,000 square foot store with around 100 parking spaces. Ideally, the location will be near a main road with good visibility and access. Aldi will also be investing in the development of new and expanded distribution centres, including its new distribution centre in Leicestershire. Richard Thornton, Communications Director at Aldi UK, said, "We want to make our great value groceries accessible to all, and to do that we need more stores, particularly in towns and areas that don't have an Aldi already. The areas we've identified in our latest list are places where there is a demand for stores, and we are committed to continue investing until we can bring our quality products and unbeatable prices to as many people as possible." The supermarket group has listed its priority locations as London, Kensington and Hackney, South West, Penzance and Bath, South East, Maidenhead and Worthing, North West, Warrington and Bramhall, North East, Newcastle upon Tyne and South Shields, East Midlands, Nottingham and Derby, West Midlands, Birmingham and Warwick, East of England, Cambridge and Brentwood, Yorkshire and the Humber, Harrogate and York, Wales, Cardiff and Chepstow, Scotland, Clarkston and Cathcart. That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was written by Ian McConnell and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland on Wednesday the 27th of September 2023. From the news section. Hardeep Singh Kohli to step up Glasgow home delivery service. An article written by Katrina Stewart and read by me, Corey. Comedian Hardeep Singh Kohli, who has been charged with alleged sex offences against women, has said he hopes to set up a home food delivery service. The 54-year-old has posted on social media about plans to launch a new business in the Greater Glasgow area, calling it a modest wee delivery service of curries to customers' doors. He added that the percentage of the profits would go to a charity, and asked his Instagram followers to suggest recipients. As first revealed in the Herald last month, Kohli was arrested in connection with a non-recent allegation of sexual offences, and Police Scotland said a report had been sent to the procurator fiscal. He is expected to appear in court later this year. On Instagram, where he has a modest 9,000 followers, he posted, "I'm thinking about possibly starting a modest wee home delivery food service. A few curries every few weeks. Are we up for this? H. Kiss, kiss, kiss." Kohli made his name on reality television shows including Celebrity Big Brother and Celebrity Master Chef, and appeared on The One Show. He added in his Instagram post that he would give part of the profits to a food bank or other charities, adding, "I'd like those charities to be suggested by you guys." A Police Scotland spokesperson said, "A 54-year-old man has been arrested and charged in connection with allegations of non-recent sexual assaults. He has been released on an undertaking to appear in court at a later date. A report of the circumstances has been submitted to the Procurator Fiscal." Kohli worked extensively at the BBC, directing the children's science TV show It'll Never Work, working as a reporter for BBC Radio Scotland, working on BBC Radio 4 and on Children in Need. He also wrote and starred in the Channel 4 sitcom Meet the Magoons, and was a judge for the Man Booker Prize and published his own book, Indian Takeaway, in 2008. In 2009, Coley opened V Deep, a curry and craft beer restaurant in Leith, but it closed less than a year later. Coley was a board member of the National Theatre of Scotland and has hosted the Brit Asia TV Music Awards on 3 occasions. That article was from the Herald Scotland, it was written by Katrina Stewart, and it was read by me, Corey. The Herald Scotland, on Wednesday the 27th of September 2023. From the news section. Scotland school strikes. Why are Unison members striking? An article by Ginny Sanderson and read by me, Corey. Schools across Scotland face disruption as thousands of support staff continue a 3-day strike over pay. Some children have been told to stay home as 21,000 Unison members walk out across 24 council areas on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday this week. Only 8 regions in Scotland will be able to continue lessons as usual, with a number of council areas having to close schools entirely. It comes as workers have been urged to reject a revised pay offer from the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, COSLA, for a pay increase for janitors, cleaners, cooks and support workers, who are some of the lowest paid council employees. While Unite and GMB unions have suspended strike action this week as members consider the pay offer, Unison chose to continue with the walkout. Why are school staff in Scotland going on strike? School support staff, from social workers to cleaners and cooks, are on strike in a dispute over pay. Unison argue that wages for the lowest paid council staff are currently well below inflation, and workers are struggling to make ends meet. Some staff have been forced to work multiple jobs to survive, the union said. 3/4 of the local government workforce earns below the average Scottish wage of £33,000, with the majority of these women. Last week, COSLA announced a revised pay offer which fell well short of what school staff were hoping for, according to Unison. Why won't Unison accept the revised pay offer from COSLA? Unison says the offer represents a real terms pay cut to workers during a cost of living crisis. Joanna Baxter of Unison Scotland called the revised offer from COSLA far too little and way too late. She said both COSLA and the Scottish Government had months to get their act together. Both have failed parents, pupils and staff miserably. Not a single school employee wants to walk out, but what's been offered is substantially short of what is needed. No one wishes to cause disruption for pupils and their parents, but school staff have been left with no other option. The blame must be laid squarely at the door of COSLA and Scottish ministers. They should give school staff a decent pay rise, fund any increase properly, and commit to a timetable for implementing a minimum rate of pay of £15 per hour for all local government workers. That would end the dispute. Anything less prolonging a dispute no one wants, cuts to already under pressure services and school staff continuing to quit for pastures new, where the jobs are significantly better paid. How much will school staff earn under COSLA's new pay offer? COSLA has not published the proposed revised pay scales for its latest offer. It states the lowest paid staff will receive a 10% uplift of around £2,000. However, according to Unison, staff would be thousands of pounds out of pocket under the new pay deal. A school support worker's average pay has risen from £14,955 in 2017 to £19,221 now. However, if it was in line with inflation, their wage would have instead gone up by £6,225 to £21,180. A part-time school cook's pay has risen from £10,912 in 2017 to around £14,247 now. If that was in line with inflation, Unison says, it would be more like £15,483. What has COSLA said about the pay offer and school strikes in Scotland? A spokesperson for COSLA said, "This is a very strong offer that equates to 10% or £2,006 for the lowest paid at the request of the trade unions. Throughout these negotiations, we have met every request of our trade union colleagues." That article was from the Herald Scotland. It was written by Ginny Sanderson, and it was read by me, Corey.
This is from the Herald on Thursday the 28th of September 2023 from the news section. Scots nature in crisis as 1 in 9 species at risk of extinction. This article is written by Martin Williams. Wildlife is in crisis, with 1 in 9 animals and plants being at risk of becoming extinct north of the border. A State of Nature Scotland analysis backed by the Scottish Government agency NatureScot and published by a partnership of over 50 nature and conservation organisations warned the risk of extinction among some groups, such as vertebrates, is much higher at more than a third, 36.5%. The most notable declines were with familiar birds such as swifts, curlews and lapwings, which have declined by more than 60%. Kestrels have declined by more than 70%. Between 1986 and 2019, the abundance of 11 annually monitored Scottish breeding seabird species fell by 49%. The results predate the ongoing outbreak of avian flu. In the last 10 years alone, 172, that's 43%, out of 407 closely monitored species have showed strong or moderate declines. The analysis found a 47% decline since 1970 in the distribution of flowering plant species and a 62% decline in bryophytes such as mosses, liverworts and hornworts, with climate change said to be hitting the latter. The researchers said there has been a 57% decline in lichen species since 1970. The systematic monitoring, the results of which are published periodically, began with the monitoring of a total of 407 species in 1994. The report said the abundance of those species has since declined on average by 15%. The researchers note that while some of the monitored species have increased in population, in the last decade alone, 43% have declined. Certain species of moths, including rosy myna, satyr pug, and grey mountain carpet, have declined in population by more than 90%. Researchers warned that while many of the species in decline are not well known, they form an integral part of wider environmental health. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, RSPB, is one of the many organisations involved in the newly released report. Paul Walton, Head of Species and Habitats for RSPB Scotland, said, "Species are the building blocks of ecosystems. Every time we allow a species to go into decline or to be lost from our country, we progressively undermine the health and functions of our ecosystems. This is a fundamental problem for the living world, including us. Ecosystems provide food, water, air. They underpin the economy and give us health and well-being. The State of Nature report shows that not only is Scotland one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world due to historic losses, but that we are still losing nature now." He added, "The finding should be a further wake-up call that despite extraordinary efforts across our society to restore ecosystems, save species and move forwards towards nature-friendly land and sea use, there's much more we need to do to halt and reverse the declines. Thankfully, there are straightforward solutions and plenty of opportunities for the Scottish Parliament to make a difference in the coming months. Our nature is declining, but Scotland still has incredible natural treasures, deeply embedded in our culture, that we must urgently conserve and restore. We must take these opportunities before it's too late. Professor Colin Galbraith, Chair of NatureScot, added, Scotland is rich with passion, endeavour and concern for our natural world, and as we work tirelessly to tackle the nature-climate emergency, it is clear that ambition for landscape-scale collaborative conservation efforts has never been so vital. The report is evidence that Scotland's nature is in crisis, but it also inspires us with what can be achieved by farmers, foresters, communities, charities and scientists when we all take the urgent action needed to protect and restore our ecosystems and species before it is too late. Described as the most precise scientific report on how Scotland's nature is faring, the study sets out to provide a benchmark for the status of wildlife by using latest and best data from monitoring schemes and biological recording centres collected by thousands of skilled volunteers and professional naturalists to provide a benchmark for the status of wildlife. The analysis has been produced by an array of groups, which included, among others, the Scottish Government Heritage Agency, NatureScot, RSPB Scotland, WWF Scotland, Plant Life, Bug Life, the Royal Zoological Society of Scotland, RZSS, Woodland Trust, John Muir Trust, Mammal Society and the Scottish Wildlife Trust, SWT. Biodiversity Minister Lorna Slater said the analysis should leave no one in any doubt about the damaging impact of our rapidly changing climate on Scotland's precious plants and animals. She added, this crisis affects everyone. We all depend on biodiversity for food, clean water, fibres and medicines. It can also help prevent flooding and contributes to our health and well-being. It is the best chance we have to adapt to climate change and ensure we can continue to enjoy nature's benefits. The Scottish Government is already taking urgent action, for example through our £65 million Nature Restoration Fund and our £250 million peatland restoration programme. Scotland's biodiversity strategy sets out our goal to be nature positive, halting biodiversity loss by 2030 and reversing declines by 2045. Right now, we're consulting on the first 5-year delivery plan to implement the strategy, along with proposals for new targets for nature restoration that could be put into law in line with those for climate change. Restoring Scotland's nature creates so many great opportunities for everyone. Communities, businesses, environmental organisations and decision makers alike must all work together to reverse biodiversity decline and protect our natural environment for future generations. That article was written by Martin Williams. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 28th of September 2023, from the news section. Christina McKelvey urges SNP members to oust Lisa Cameron. This article is written by Andrew Learmonth. The Scottish Government Minister has joined calls for SNP members in East Kilbride to oust their SNP MP. Christina McKelvey said she would back Grant Costello for the candidacy in Lisa Cameron's constituency. The Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse MP, who serves as Humza Yousaf's Minister for Culture, Europe and International Development, said she had known Mr Costello for many years and praised his proven track record of campaigning on the issues that matter to the people of East Kilbride and Strathaven. Her endorsement for the campaigner, who works as the SNP's digital media manager, comes as angry activists in the branch pushed back against the suggestion that Dr Cameron was facing a selection battle because of her support for Patrick Brady's teenage victim. One senior local member told the Herald, "The branch has absolutely no record that Lisa has ever mentioned, never mind stood up for the victim in the Grady matter." They added, The branch presented its first complaint about her 6 or 7 years ago, 8 or 9 complaints since then, and an official motion to have her removed over 3 years ago, so this is not a new situation. A motion passed by East Kilbride SNP on 23rd of September 2019 and seen by the Herald criticised the National Executive Committee's decision to impose Dr Lisa Cameron as the party's candidate in the forthcoming general election for the second time, despite misgivings expressed by party members across East Kilbride, Strathaven and Lesmahago, Westminster constituency since before the 2017 election. The motion, which was backed by 37 members and opposed by none, said that despite undertakings given by Dr Cameron before the 2017 election, there has been no change in her attitude towards the party, including East Kilbride SNP, which covers more than 70% of the electors in her constituency. The branch called on the NEC to recognise that the breakdown in the relationship between Dr Cameron and the party is such that it would be detrimental to our mutual aim of delivering independence if Dr Cameron remains as candidate. Meanwhile, in an interview with Daily Mail, Dr Cameron claimed the hostility from SNP colleagues in Westminster had given her panic attacks. She told the paper, "I feel like the hierarchy, the leadership at the time, basically issued a directive to support the perpetrator, and I was the person who said at the time, not to cause a problem, but because of my work experience in the field with victims, that we should have a victim-led approach. We should be thinking of what we're doing for the victim, and what are the victim's feelings if we are going to be welcoming back the perpetrator." I was really shocked at the response. It was basically ignored. The hostility started afterwards, and it was like I said something out of turn. Mr Grady was suspended from the Commons after he made an unwanted sexual advance to a party staffer, 19 years his junior, while under the influence of alcohol. Dr Cameron told the paper that she had told the SNP whips at Westminster she was undergoing counselling following her experience, saying she had about 12 months of counselling records that go along with this. That article was written by Andrew Learmonth. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 28th of September 2023, from the news section. Glasgow City Council writes off school meal debts. This article is written by Katrina Stewart. Scotland's largest local authority is putting in place measures to ensure schools can deal sensitively with rising levels of school meal debt. It was recently revealed that Renfrewshire Council had sent debt collectors to chase families who had accrued school meal debts, passing their details to Sheriff Officers Walker Love. In Glasgow, a pupil survey showed high numbers of young people reporting going to school or to bed hungry, prompting action from education bosses. Councillors have agreed to write off school meal debt, and the city is looking at an expansion of free lunch provision to support struggling families. Councillor Christina Cannon, who is the city's convener for education, said, "Addressing food insecurity and hunger has been a priority for the council, and measures to support this have achieved cross-party support, including millions of pounds of funding for our holiday school and activity programme and local food growing." The cost of living crisis, food inflation, and the impact of Brexit is raising food insecurity in the city in ways that have not been seen for decades, and this is having a significant impact on people's health and well-being. Adequate nutrition is vital to allow our young people to reach their full potential, and the nutritional value of school meals is equally important in supporting our young people to make healthier choices. The Council's most recent school health and well-being census showed that nearly 60% of pupils reported that they sometimes go to bed or to school hungry, while 3% said they always go to bed hungry. Some 27% said they sometimes do, prompting councillors to give cross-party support to dealing with food insecurity in Glasgow families. Glasgow City Council was the first to extend free school meals to primary 4 pupils and has increased catering facilities across the city for any further expansion to free school meals. It is looking to expand universal free meal provision to all primary school levels. As part of plans to support families, the Council agreed at this year's March budget to write off school debt held centrally, and also agree to write off local levels of school debt where the debt amounts to the equivalent of 1 month's worth of meals. School head teachers have now been told to run reports at least monthly to show current funding balances per child, to give early warning of any financial worries and issues among sibling groups. When any debt reaches £20, a letter or a text will be sent out to the family from the school, and teachers must assess whether the parents are experiencing financial hardship. The city has Financial Inclusion Service Officers, FISO, who can meet with parents and carers to offer support with applying for benefits and grants. Any debts of more than £100 can be considered as hardship and referred to the council to be written off. A report detailing how the authority will deal with rising school meal debts said this process had been followed by schools where debts had been accrued due to the death of a parent or a delay in the receipt of benefits. The council spokesperson said, "At no point will a child be refused a meal if they have no credit on their parent pay account." In some schools, the council said head teachers must find ways to overcome language barriers, as the payment system is only in English. COSLA has developed guidelines for schools to manage free school meal debt, but the approach across Scotland varies widely. A Freedom of Information request showed the SNP-led Renfrewshire Council sending sheriff officers to pursue monies owed by parents. Dundee City Council sent 15,669 letters to parents and carers who have not activated their parent pay account in 2022-23 to pay for meals, but said no child is ever denied their school meal. Pupils from primary 1 to 5 are entitled to a free school meal during term time, meaning the issue affects families with older children. Labour MSP Monica Lennon has been calling for the universal rollout of free school meals to P6 and P7 pupils to be accelerated. She said, "It's shameful that hungry children and struggling families are being hounded over school meal debts and living in fear of sheriff officers banging on their door. Humza Yousaf must get a grip and stop the debt collectors. We need an immediate moratorium on school meal debt and an emergency cabinet meeting to thrash out a new delivery plan for universal free school meals for primary 6 and 7 pupils. Ending child hunger and binning the stigma associated with means-tested free school meals must be a genuine priority for the SNP Scottish Green Government." The Scottish Government said it has been working with council umbrella body COSLA to expand the provision of free school meals to P6 and P7 pupils in 2026. That article was written by Katrina Stewart. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 28th of September 2023, from the news section. X-Prize to set up first European hub at University of Glasgow. This article is written by Christy Dorsey. Glasgow is to become the European hub for X-Prize, an initiative that aims to help solve some of the world's most pressing challenges, such as climate change and food shortages through competitive rivalry. The University of Glasgow's Mazumdar Shaw Advanced Research Centre, ARC, will become home to X-Prize Europe. X-Prize has been running global innovation competitions for more than 29 years, but this will be its first physical presence outside the United States. Anusha Ansari, Chief Executive of XPRIZE, said the new hub is part of a future positive movement and will play a key role in connecting academic, business and public sector leaders to foster stronger links between the US, Europe, Africa. Although we've had teams participating from 140 countries, we felt that having a physical presence outside the US is important in really engaging the community of innovators and to support those innovators, she said. We've been looking at partnerships, and since a lot of our teams come from universities, a university partnership was ideal. We are very, very lucky to be partnering with the University of Glasgow and establishing our physical presence in the UK here in Scotland. Programming and activities that currently take place in the UK will be replicated at the European Centre, which is expected to employ 3 or 4 full-time XPRIZE staff locally. There are currently 4 competitions running, focusing respectively on bringing an end to destructive wildfires, carbon removal, protein alternatives to chicken and fish, and rainforest protection. Competitions usually run over several years, with prizes ranging from a few up to tens of millions of dollars. We try to attract innovators from all over the world, and we feel that having a European hub will allow teams to participate more from Europe in general, but also it will become a hub for participation from other countries in Africa and Asia, where coming to the US or engaging with our team in the US is sometimes challenging, said Ms. Ansari, adding that 3 more competitions are due to be launched within the next 6 months. Principal and Vice-Chancellor Anton Muscatelli said the partnership will allow the university to be a visible part of a growing global movement. XPRIZE has already had an incredible global impact in leveraging research to improve society and our lives, enabling and inspiring innovators and entrepreneurs to work together in novel ways, he said. XPRIZE Europe, based at the University of Glasgow, will build on these huge successes to further galvanise the innovation ecosystem, academic institutions and private sector to collaborate in research and innovation and to support entrepreneurial ambitions. That article was written by Christy Dorsey. This is from the Herald on Thursday the 28th of September 2023, from the news section. Yousaf and Fox in war of words over female journalist attack. This article is written by Andrew Learmonth. Humza Yousaf has branded the controversial actor Lawrence Fox a vile Neanderthal over comments made about a female journalist. The thespian turned right-wing pundit was suspended by GB News on Wednesday morning after he made a series of remarks during an appearance on Dan Wootton's show about Ava Evans, the political correspondent for online news site Joe, including asking, "Who would want to shag that?" The reporter shared a clip of the comments on social media site X, formerly known as Twitter, with the caption, "Lawrence Fox just did a whole speech on GB News on why men apparently won't shag me." She said the footage made her feel physically sick. Mr. Yousaf shared Mr. Evans' tweet, writing, "What a vile Neanderthal Lawrence Fox is," and an example of bystander behaviour enabling such misogyny from the presenter. "I'm so sorry Ava Santina had to listen to this. It is why men have to step up and challenge misogynistic abuse whenever we see it. Pleased Ofcom is investigating." Within 10 minutes, Mr. Fox had responded saying, "The feeling is entirely mutual, you vile Neanderthal." His post included a clip of Mr. Yousaf speaking at Holyrood while Justice Secretary, pointing out that the majority of those in powerful positions in Scotland were white. Mr. Fox also defended his comments about Ms. Evans, claiming they were an exercise of his free speech. "I stand by every word of what I said." GB News said on Wednesday morning in a statement on X, formerly Twitter, GB News has formally suspended Lawrence Fox while we continue our investigation into comments he made on the channel last night. Mr. Fox's suspension is effective immediately and he has been taken off air. We will be apologising formally to Ms. Evans today. Reacting to Mr. Fox's remarks, Ms. Evans told Channel 5's Jeremy Vine's show that she was really hurt and shocked that the segment was broadcast following her saying that she would rather be judged or asked about her work than body. She also said, "Do you know this is the sort of talk you worry that men have about you when you're not in the room? There is always a sort of worry in the back of your mind which is, are people actually interested in what I'm saying or what I'm doing? Or are they just looking at me, physically? And I think that clip proves that there are some men who are." The Tory party deputy chairman, Lee Anderson, as well as fellow MPs Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg and Esther McVeigh, all host shows on GB News. In a statement to the PA news agency, an Ofcom spokesperson said, "We can confirm we've received a number of complaints about comments made by Lawrence Fox on GB News last night. We are assessing these complaints against our broadcast rules and will publish the outcome as quickly as possible." That article was written by Andrew Learmonth.
From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 28th of September, from the sports section. Football. David Martindale baffled by controversial Rangers decision. Report by Ewan Payton. David Martindale admits he was baffled by the decision to allow Rangers' opening goal against Livingston last night. Abdallah Sima was played down the left channel by Reid van Yilmaz during the first half. As the attacker looked to get in behind the Lions' defence, he bundled defender Jamie Brandon over to the deck before racing in on goal and finishing superbly from a tight angle. Willie Collum opted not to award a foul for the situation, while VAR Nick Walsh also saw no reason to intervene with a review of the goal. Fans and pundits have since been left perplexed by the situation, with Sima appearing to push Brandon in order to break away with the ball. Speaking after the 4-0 loss, Martindale insisted the decision was a bitter one to take. "I think the first goal was a foul. I've watched it back myself. There are clear hands on and it's a push. Not a huge one, but when you're running with momentum and you get a push, you're going to fall," he told BBC Scotland. "For the life of me, I don't know how we haven't got a foul. The first goal hurts us, it spooks us. I'm disappointed because as it went to VAR review, it was in the face of play that led to the goal. My understanding was it doesn't have to be clear and obvious if it leads to taking the ball and putting it in the back of your net. I thought it would get overturned, and it never. I don't think anyone goes out to make bad decisions, so we've got the technology, but it comes down to the opinions of people making the decisions. Sometimes the decisions fall your way, sometimes they don't. Ibrox away, quarter-final, pfft. I've not seen many of them given, to be honest. No officials go out to get it wrong, but I can't believe it's not a foul. I'll not be contacting anyone." Sima scored another in the match, while Yilmaz and Ryan Jack also got in on the act to set up a semi-final with Hearts in November. That report was by sports writer Ewan Payton. From the Herald Scotland, Thursday the 28th of September, from the Voices section. Agenda. Getting to the heart of a major problem for Scotland. By David McColgan, Head of British Heart Foundation, Scotland. Heart and circulatory conditions can often go undiagnosed for too long. They often aren't discovered until something goes wrong or it becomes too late. Ahead of World Heart Day tomorrow, we're absolutely thrilled to be announced as the new national charity partner for the Rangers Charity Foundation. This is a huge opportunity to work with the club, and this partnership will help give us the opportunity to reach tens of thousands of people across Scotland and train football fans in life-saving CPR. The partnership, which will last for the length of the 2023-24 season, will help raise awareness of heart and circulatory diseases among the footballing community. Heart and circulatory diseases are some of the nation's biggest killers. In Scotland, they're estimated to affect around 700,000 people and cause 50 deaths a day. But, despite the scale of these figures, many people across the country severely underestimated the seriousness of them. As part of our latest Spotlight On campaign, we carried out a survey to find out what people's knowledge is around heart health. It found that while it's estimated that around half of the people in this country will get a heart or circulatory condition during our lifetime, more than a quarter, 27%, of those surveyed in Scotland thought the likelihood of them developing a heart condition was just 1 in 10, while over a fifth, 22%, thought the chance was just 1 in 50. Only 3% of respondents knew the correct answer, which is 1 in 2. Worryingly, we have also found that many people are confused about the seriousness of a heart attack and cardiac arrest. While both are life-threatening emergencies that require immediate medical treatment, only 79% of Scots would call 999 for an ambulance if they thought a person was having a heart attack, while only 60% of people considered a cardiac arrest a medical emergency. That's why, through our latest partnership with Rangers Charity Foundation, we also have the ambition to train at least 50,000 people, the capacity of Ibrox Stadium, to learn life-saving CPR through our free online tool, Revivar. Revivar allows people to learn CPR in just 15 minutes, and Revivar, by the way, is spelled capital R, E-V, I-V, capital R. Revivar allows people to learn CPR in just 15 minutes and aims to give people the skills and confidence to save a life. It teaches people how to recognise a cardiac arrest, gives feedback on chest compressions, and outlines the correct steps in using a defibrillator. All people need is a mobile phone and a firm cushion. We'll be sharing QR codes for Revivar throughout the Ibrox Stadium to encourage fans to learn this vital skill, and also working with players to help give them the confidence to administer CPR. This is such an exciting time for BHF Scotland and the Rangers Charity Foundation, and, together, we're looking forward to help educate, raise awareness and shine a spotlight on heart and circulatory diseases across the country. Piece by David McColgan, who is head of British Heart Foundation Scotland.
This is from the Herald Scotland on Friday the 29th of September 2023. From the news section. Labour increasingly confident of victory in Rutherglen by-election. Report by Andrew Learmonth. Next week's by-election in Rutherglen and Hamilton West is of monumental significance, Sir Keir Starmer has said, suggesting that Labour is increasingly confident of victory. The leader of the opposition will be in the South Lanarkshire seat today with candidate Michael Shanks. Voters in the constituency have been without an MP for over 2 months, ever since Margaret Ferrier was ousted in a recall petition. Labour needs a swing of just 5% to take the seat and overturn the majority of 5,230 secured by the disgraced former MP in 2019. Although their national poll ratings have fallen in recent weeks, Anis Sarwar's party remain the favourites in the contest. Ahead of the visit, Sir Keir said, "This by-election is of monumental significance. For far too long, the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West have been let down by 2 incompetent governments that don't speak for you, and a rule-breaking MP who refused to do the right thing. Next Thursday, voters in Rutherglen and Hamilton West can say enough is enough. You can vote for change, and you can elect a local champion in Michael Shanks, who will put our 2 failing governments on notice." The Labour leader also criticised the SNP's use of paid leafleters on zero-hour contracts after Hamza Yousaf's party reviewed their distribution arrangements. The review followed claims in the Scottish Sun that a local was told by a leafleter, "I don't support the SNP, I'm just getting paid to hand this shite out. It's a 0 hours contract as well." That's despite the SNP previously describing 0 hours contracts as exploitative and calling for Holyrood to get the powers to ban them. "I know the importance of respect for a day's graft," Sir Keir said, "the dignity in a day's work, the necessity for work to pay. This is why it is so insulting for the SNP candidate here to hire workers on 0-hour contracts. It runs totally counter to the asks of people across Rutherglen and Hamilton West for security in work, secure family finances, and fairness in exchange for hard work. The fact is that there is another way, the Labour way. We were founded to seek power and use it to serve working people, and we will do it again. Michael Shanks will make work pay for the people of Rutherglen and Hamilton West, and he'll spend every day focused on you and working tirelessly to deliver the change that Scotland needs. The SNP hit out at Sir Keir, saying Labour had ignored their calls for the £400 energy bill rebate for households to be brought back this winter and for a mortgage tax relief. Katie Loudon, their candidate in the by-election, said, "Keir Starmer has a brass neck turning up to Rutherglen and Hamilton West after he and his pro-Brexit Labour Party have shamefully stayed silent over cost of living support and offered no meaningful policies to help people through this crisis. Keir Starmer and Anas Sarwar have had ample opportunity to show they will stand up for people in this constituency by backing the SNP's calls for an energy rebate and tax relief for mortgage holders, but they've refused to do so every time. Right now, all that is on offer from Labour is the Tory status quo. As an SNP MP, I will always stand up against Westminster austerity and work for the real cost of living support for people across this community." That report was by Andrew Learmonth.
From the Herald Scotland, Saturday the 30th of September, from the sports section, John Ram hits back at Brooks Koepka's Ryder Cup dig, by golf correspondent Nick Roger. In the modern age, the Ryder Cup has never been short of contention, controversy and crash-bang wallop. The war on the shore at Kiowa Island in 1991, for instance, was such a highly charged, rancorous affair, it could have opened with an artillery salvo instead of a session of foursomes. The Battle of Brooklyn in 1999, meanwhile, almost left shrapnel embedded in the turf as it roared to chaotic conclusion, and what seemed like the entire population of Massachusetts invaded the 17th green. Who said golf was a genteel, staid pursuit overflowing with Corinthian spirit? Here at the Marco Simone Club in 2023, the toys have been hurled out of the pram. The rumpus in Roma? Well, the hostility appeared to stem from a triviality, to be honest. But under the microscopic gaze of a feverish media, which is a bit like plonking the entire Ryder Cup circus into a petri dish and examining it in laboratory conditions, every word, action, huff and puff gets magnified. So, when a Brastov Brooks Koepka sat in a press conference the other night sporting the glum countenance of Les Dawson opening a disappointing bank statement and took a rather cryptic pop at John Ram, the temperature was cranked up a little bit. Not that it needs to be. It's boiling out here. Koepka, partnering Scotty Scheffler in the Four-Ballers on Friday afternoon, had watched Ram reel off 2 thrilling eagles on the last 3 holes to plunder a half point in a dramatic denouement. Asked to give his thoughts on the late twist in the tail, the 5-time major champion offered up a somewhat abstruse observation. "I want to hit the board and pout just like John Ram did," he said. "But, you know, it is what it is. Act like a child, but we're adults. We move on." Koepka's mood was certainly not lifted in Saturday's foursomes when, in partnership with Scheffler again, they lost by a frightening 9-7 margin, the biggest in Ryder Cup history, to Ludwig Aberg and Victor Hovland. After his trash talking, this dreadful defeat was, well, trash. Ram, in contrast, was in another cock-a-hoot mood, after he combined with Tyrrell Hatton and conjured another late finish to beat Patrick Cantley and Xander Schauffele 2-1, as Europe sparkled in the Italian sunshine. It was the ideal time, then, to gently ask him about this stushy with the board, an advertising hoarding, and the pout. "I am not going to stand here and say I am a perfect example of what to do on a golf course," explained Ram. I play and compete the way I think I need to play and compete. I was not happy that I left a 10-footer short in the 17th to possibly tie the hole, and going up to the tee I let out some frustration hitting a board sideways. I kept walking. That was it. Brooks thinks that's childish. He is entitled to think what he thinks. Ram, of course, has always been a rambunctious character at times on the course. In the cut and thrust of top-level competition, the Spaniard can be as fiery as a blast furnace, but tends to channel all the energy into the right places and reaps the rewards. Ram won't be changing. I am very comfortable with who I am and what I do, said the Masters champion. I have done much worse on a golf course, so that hitting a board doesn't even register on a low level of John anger on a golf course. Whatever he, Koepka, says, it shouldn't change the way I approach this tournament. That's it. I'm here to do my job, and whatever comment anybody else may have shouldn't really change the way I go about it or what I think of myself. As for Ram's relationship with Koepka, I've never had an issue with Brooks, I don't know now, he said. Up until yesterday afternoon, I thought we had a pretty good relationship. Hatton, a man who can be as explosive as a malfunction in a munitions factory, offered some calming reason in the stushy. I try to avoid outside noise, it's the best thing to do, said Hatton. Especially in a week like this, when tensions are high, emotions are pretty high. Sometimes certain things might be said or may be taken out of context. I think you just carry on. Team Europe continue to crack on. And that was a story by Nick Rogers.
The Herald on the 29th of September and the Voices section. Agenda: Supporting Tourism Transition to Net Zero by Timoid Foyley. We are now nearing the end of Scotland's Climate Week, which has been putting the country's journey to become more sustainable into focus. We have had a chance to stop and take stock of how far we have come as one of the first nations to declare a global climate emergency, but also how far we still have to go. For Scotland's tourism industry, knowing how to operate more sustainably and taking the first step can be overwhelming for many businesses. This is where Visit Scotland is here to help and can support businesses on their journey to achieving net zero. From our destination Net Zero Tourism Recovery Programme to helping businesses to develop a climate action plan, access to green tourism certification and rural tourism infrastructure funding for electric vehicle charge points, we want to make it easy as possible for businesses. The theme of Scotland's Climate Week this year is heating and transport, two essential aspects of running a tourism business. I know there are many challenges for the businesses in the current economic climate, and that means for many, net zero can drop down the list of priorities. But I would urge businesses to consider carbon reduction as a way to make initial savings and continue to make savings. There are plenty of things that can be making a difference. For example, looking at fabric you're building can identify key areas for significant energy loss. And the simplest question of all, could you switch off your lights more? Switching to an LED bulb and renewable energy supplier are simple and effective solutions to becoming more carbon neutral. We know that visitors are also becoming more concerned about the impact of their travels on the planet and looking for more sustainable choices while on holiday. Responsible tourism is a key theme for our consumer marketing and travel trade activity, and an opportunity to highlight the variety of sustainable tourism experiences on offer across the country. It's also important for us at Visit Scotland to celebrate industry success stories and best practice with responsible tourism at the heart of our annual industry awards, the Scottish Thistle Awards, with new categories on celebrating thriving communities, including inclusive tourism and climate action included this year. Due to the speed of climate change, net zero is a fast-paced and constantly evolving area. At Visit Scotland, we are committed to being a trusted and accessible source of information and advice for tourism businesses. Guidance and free resources can be found on the Supporting Your Business section on our industry website, visitscotland.org. It is important to break down barriers and speak with the tourism industry about climate change and achieving net zero on a level we all understand. We want businesses to feel part of the wider net zero tourism community, with Scottish Climate Week offering a timely opportunity for us to highlight support and advice on offer through Scotland. And that was by Timoid Foley.
Herald Scotland recorded on Monday, 2nd of October 2023, Arts and Entertainments, Billy Connolly on Parkinson's in Modern Comedy Mores, by Catriona Stewart. Sir Billy Connolly has revealed he finds the political correctness in modern comedy vomit-inducing as he discussed his life with Parkinson's. In an interview with his wife Pamela Stevenson, the big un talked about his favourite places, how his life has changed, and his fury at PR*CKS in politics. The discussion for the Guardian newspaper also revealed Sir Billy has had a couple of serious falls after the illness caused his balance to deteriorate. Stevenson said her husband's balance issue was the most significant symptom of the disease since his diagnosis 10 years ago. Scottish comic said, "Recently I've noticed a deterioration in my balance. There was never such a problem before, but in the last year that has come and it has stayed. For some reason I thought it would go away because a lot of the symptoms have come and gone away." Sir Billy was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2013. On the same day he found out he had prostate cancer, from which he has recovered. While he said he enjoys being driven places, his relationship with his wife has changed significantly as she has become his primary caregiver. Sir Billy's current favourite entertainment is a school of black comedians who are generally in their 50s and 60s, and they are so politically incorrect it almost doesn't bear watching. He added, "It's fantastically good for you. They just say it like it is. It's breathtaking. That's wonderful, and I'm glad they exist, because the social workeration that has passed through comedy is vomit-inducing. Comedians never used to worry about what was correct to say. You said it, and you soon found out whether it was correct or not, and then you got on with it. And that was a good enough rule for me." Asked where the best and worst places he has travelled to are, the 80-year-old said Liverpool had been the worst. He had been complacent during a gig, and the audience responded accordingly. To his wife's chagrin, he described Australia. It's clean and bright and healthy, and the people seem happy and delighted to be there, as his favourite. He had, she said, never made good on a promise to live in Australia. Stevenson said, "You be starred. You even promised me one hot Christmas, brackets Australia, close brackets, and one cold Christmas, brackets Scotland, close brackets, but it never happened. So now you're saying you would have lived there?" The couple also talk of their wedding in Fiji and a scuba diving excursion that became a near-death experience when Sir Billy lost his weight belt while underwater. Sir Billy's new book, The Rambling Man, is due for release shortly, and he says, while he does not discuss politics in the book, the couple do discuss the issue in their Florida Keys home. He gives a strident viewpoint on Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. He should be F*CKED and burned, and describes seeing neighbours with Trump decorations on their Christmas trees. In retiring from performing 5 years ago after his Parkinson's diagnosis, he said he misses the fact that it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having, you're going to have a great night. You become this other guy and have a great night that will last till the following day. Parkinson's is the second most common neurodegenerative condition after Alzheimer's disease. It causes part of the brain to become progressively damaged over many years. Loss of balance and the subsequent falls, Stevenson said, had been the most significant issue which had arisen from the disease. So Billy said, "It's funny, that fall I had when I landed my jaw reminded me of a thing I used to do on stage. I used to say, I fell out of bed, but luckily my face broke my fall." Sir Billy said he felt like he was being encroached upon by the cruel disease, adding that it was creeping up behind me and stopping me doing things. Sir Billy, a comedian and actor known for his observational and improvised stand-up comedy, was knighted in 2017 for services to entertainment and charity, following a career which has spanned 5 decades. Rambling Man, My Life on the Road by Billy Connolly is published by John Murray Press. By Catriona Stewart. Herald Scotland recorded on Thursday 28th of September 2023. Arts and Entertainments. PJ Harvey Glasgow Review, Superb Show from a Singular Talent. By Adam Miller, reporter. PJ Harvey, Glasgow Barrowlands, 5 stars. It takes a degree of confidence for an artist to wait 12 songs before playing something that isn't from the new album. PJ Harvey, however, is no ordinary artist, and the rapturous reception from her spellbound audience proved that self-belief was entirely justified. 6 years on from her last Scottish show, Polly Jean could comfortably have played the OVO Hydro, Glasgow's largest auditorium. Instead, she opted to perform over 2 nights at the city's most beloved venue. Dressed in all white on her second night at Glasgow's Barrowlands, Harvey and her 4-piece band delivered a set of 2 halves. The first consisted entirely of I Inside the Old Year Dying, which she introduced earlier this year as an album about searching, looking, the intensity of first love, and seeking meaning. Intensity was evident from the outset, and her audience responded with a hushed reverence during songs that made the famous ballroom more intimate than usual. Harvey recently told Vulture that my voice is actually better than it's ever been, and few in the crowd would argue, with the 53-year-old in complete command of her instrument, brackets, not to mention her acoustic guitar, electric guitar and auto harp, close brackets, throughout a mesmerising performance. Of the new material, Lonesome Tonight, brackets, Sick, close brackets, and A Child's Question, August, were particular standouts. Every last detail feels meticulously planned, with a striking stage set created by award-winning designer Ray Smith, show directed by theatre director Ian Rickson, and all-white ensemble designed by Todd Lynn, who has been working with Harvey since dressing her for 2001's striking This Is Love video. The stage set for the PJ Harvey tour is the work of award-winning designer Ray Smith, who made these drawings during rehearsals. Harvey left the stage to her band for The Colour of the Earth from 2011's Let England Shake, the album which made her the only artist to have won 2 prestigious Mercury Prizes. She returned for 2 powerful songs from that album, kicking off a run of 11 numbers from a spectacular catalogue spanning over 30 years. The standard never dropped, from the yearning gorgeous Angeline to the glorious noise of Man-Size. During a beautiful rendition of The Desperate Kingdom of Love, you could hear a pin drop on the sticky Barrowlands floor. There was no sea of camera phones or restless crowd chatter. Few could look away from this singular performer at the height of her powers. It was only after the menacing, ecstatically received Down by the Water, 22 songs in, that she finally addressed her audience. A majestic To Bring You My Love followed. Harvey ended the night with her first ever public rendition of Dark Eyes by Bob Dylan, departing with the words, "What a lovely night. Thanks for making us so happy." The cheers and stomping feet suggested that feeling was mutual. By Adam Miller.
From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 2nd of October, from the news section. Bells Hill Bomb Squad, man charged after police raid in Glasgow home. Report by Jodie Harrison. A man has been charged after a bomb disposal squad was called to a home. Police were called to the house in Bells Hill on Saturday and alerted the bomb squad after finding items. A 45-year-old man has been arrested and charged in connection with the incident and is expected to appear at Hamilton Sheriff Court on Monday. A Police Scotland spokesperson said, around 10:30am on Saturday, September the 30th, officers attended a property on West End Drive, Bells Hill. Items were discovered within and an EOD, Explosive Ordnance Disposal team, attended. Inquiries remain ongoing, however, there is no wider risk to the public. And that report was by Jodie Harrison. From the Herald Scotland, Monday the 2nd of October, from the news section. Met Office Scotland heavy rain warning for October the 5th and 6th. Report by Carlo Simone. The Met Office has issued a yellow weather warning for heavy and persistent rain, which may lead to some disruption. The warning area covers much of Western Scotland and is expected to last from 3pm on Thursday, October the 5th, to the very end of Friday, October the 6th. Parts of Western Scotland faced another yellow warning for rain as recently as Sunday, September the 24th, as well as having to deal with the effects of Storm Agnes the following week. The Met Office has stated there is a small chance that homes and businesses could be flooded and that some communities could become cut off by flooded roads due to rain. What to expect with the heavy rain warning? The Met Office says there are a number of things that could happen with a yellow weather warning for heavy rain, including spray and flooding could lead to difficult driving conditions and some road closures. Where flooding occurs, there is a chance of delays or cancellations to train and bus services. There is a small chance that some communities will become cut off by flooded roads. There is a small chance that homes and businesses could be flooded, causing damage to some buildings. There is a slight chance of power cuts and loss of other services to some homes and businesses. In a statement, the forecaster said, Locally heavy and persistent rain is expected to develop on Thursday and Friday, this following on from heavy rain across parts of this area on Wednesday. For lower lying and southern parts of the warning area, 25 to 50 millimetres is likely to fall, with 75 millimetres in a few locations, but across the West Highlands, 75 to 125 millimetres is likely, perhaps in excess of 150 millimetres in a few spots. And that report was by Carlo Simone.
From the Herald, Monday, 2nd of October 2023, Sports Section. Europe Captain Donald, I think these guys will be around for a while. By Herald Sport Online. Europe Captain Luke Donald backed his Ryder Cup winners to have more success in the event after wresting back the trophy from the United States with a 16.5 to 11.5 victory in Rome. For a large part of the build-up, the Americans were strong favourites, with 10 of their 12-strong team ranked in the world's top 20. But some of Europe's players found some late-season form, and it proved pivotal at Marco Simon. World number 2, Rory McIlroy, claimed 4 points from 5 matches. Victor Hovland partnering brilliantly when rookie Ludwig Adberg, who claimed 2 from 4, and Tyrrell Hatton both got 3.5, and another rookie, Robert McIntyre, picked up 2.5 from just 3 matches. McIlroy is the oldest at 34. Hatton's 31, but Hovland is 26, Aberg 23, and McIntyre 27. Not many people give us a chance after Whistling Straits. We were big underdogs. We started to show some form in the last 6 months, and I couldn't be happier with the team that I've got, said Donald, whom the players want to lead the team in 2 years' time. I think these guys will be around for a long time. We formed a bond from day one, and they gave me everything. They trusted me, and they delivered for me. After an emotional defeat in the United States 2 years ago, in which he won just 1 point, McIlroy was delighted to have wrestled back the trophy. The scoreline, 19-9. That hurt. It really did. I didn't like it. I gave my best performance and didn't feel I did my part for the team, he said. This wasn't about revenge. This was about redemption and showing what we could do. The Northern Irishman now wants to build on the triumph and win in the US in 2025. I think one of the biggest accomplishments in golf right now is winning an away Ryder Cup, and that's what we're going to do at Bethpage, he added. Defeat extended America's run without a win on European soil beyond 30 years. It will be 34 by the time they return to Adair Manor in 2027, and Captain Zach Johnson took full responsibility. I would love to start the week over, but that's not possible, he said. You know, regret is a strong word, but I wish I would have done a better job of that. I don't know what it looks like, never will, but it's not a matter of anything other than Team Europe scored more points. I'm proud of my guys. They fought. It's not them, it's on me. Maybe it's some poor decisions, something to reflect on. I don't know yet. That article was by Herald Online.
This is from the Herald Scotland on Monday, the 2nd of October 2023. From Voices section. Working from home. If you want to get noticed, go back to the office. Report by Dominic Ryan. Reports that financial services workers in London's Canary Wharf are now taking Friday as an undeclared day off has sparked a debate about attitudes to returning to work post-COVID lockdown. Entrepreneur Lord Willie Hoy noted that many restaurants and bars in particular, UK-wide, are no longer opening on a Friday. I was hoping and I was confident people would slowly get back, but it's been much slower than I thought it would be, Lord Hoy told listeners to his Go Radio show. In my own opinion, and speaking about my own business, I definitely think we have to get people to come back to work. I don't think things are going to get back to normal, but we cannot let a pandemic end up changing our whole working pattern. I'm sure all these companies in the city didn't tell the workers not to come in on a Friday. People just took it upon themselves. But I can tell with my own car park, contrasting a Monday and a Friday, there's a third of the cars in it. I would say to everybody who is still working from home, especially young people, if you've any ambition at all to do better within your company, you will not get recognised sitting in the house. As Sir Richard Dyson said, it's all about collaboration, it's about getting noticed, it's about seeing how people are doing, so I think you'll just be a number and a name if you work from home. Sir Tom Hunter was keen to point out the importance of real-world upskilling in the workplace. If you're a young person, how do you get your mentorship? How do you learn? How do you learn by doing? You don't learn by sitting in your jammies in a Zoom call, said Sir Tom. There are hard truths here. A lot of people don't want to hear them, but the leaders of these businesses need to sit with their team and say, OK, we've 2 people we're taking care of. We have you, the employees, and we have our customers. What's best for both here? Lord Hoy agreed, adding, When I first started work at 15, I learned about life, the social skills and how different people operate, how you get to trust people, not to trust people. My message, especially to young people starting out, is, if you have the opportunity, get into the office, get into your workplace, wherever it might be, and mingle and work together. That report was by Dominic Ryan.
Herald Scotland recorded on Wednesday, 4th of October 2023. Arts and Entertainments. Edinburgh. Low-budget mixed-tech language film earns awards recognition. By Craig Williams, reporter. A low-budget film shot in Edinburgh in mixed-tech language is competing in the official selection at one of the most renowned gatherings for contemporary cinema in Latin America. Scottish and Mexican sci-fi drama Itu Ninu will compete in the official selection of the Morelia International Film Festival in Mexico later this month. The head of the jury for the official selection for this year's festival is celebrated Mexican cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto, a 3-times Academy Awards nominee for his work on Brokeback Mountain, Martin Scorsese's Silence and The Irishman. The festival will also be opened by the Lord of the Rings actor Viggo Mortensen. Itu Ninu was shot with support of a small grant by the Royal Society of Edinburgh and finished with a grant by the Diversity and Inclusion Fund of Edinburgh Culture. The director, Itandehui Jansen, is a Mexican filmmaker based in Edinburgh and currently leads the MA film at Screen Academy Scotland. Armando Batista Garcia, who produced, wrote and starred in the film, is also based in Edinburgh, as is colourist Stephen Horn. Sound designer William Aikman is based in Glasgow. Itu Ninu tells the story of 2 climate migrants in a highly controlled smart city in the year 2084, under constant surveillance, who try to connect with each other by writing old-fashioned letters. The film delves into the impact of climate change and environmental breakdown on Indigenous peoples. To ensure a sustainable approach to filming, the production crew adopted artisanal techniques, employed minimal crew, reducing travel and relying on natural light. The team tracked its carbon footprint utilising the Albert carbon calculator tools and sourced props and costumes from charity shops to minimise unnecessary consumption and waste. At least 50% of the film's dialogue is spoken in mixtec, a broad term for a dialect cluster of over 50 closely related language varieties, spoken in the region of Mexico, sometimes known as La Mixteca, in the state of Oaxaca. About the film, director Itandehui Jansen said, "This film originated from a very personal preoccupation. The neighbourhood we live in coastal Scotland, might be flooded within the next 30 years due to climate change. This made me feel a certain urgency to make a film that addresses climate change." Additionally, the screenwriter and producer's native language mixtec is endangered due to a rapid decline in speakers. Through the film, we wanted to express this profound sense of loss with regards to both the natural environment and Indigenous people's cultural heritage. Within the narrative, 2 characters exchange of letters, delving into the profound reasons that forced them to leave their ancestral communities due to devastating droughts. The reflective correspondence is presented through evocative voiceovers, spoken in the Indigenous language mixtec. I was inspired by narrative techniques employed by masters like Jean-Luc Godard in 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her, 1967, or Mark Cousins in Stockholm, My Love, 2016. We shot in location in Edinburgh, harnessing the beauty of natural light. Embracing a minimalistic, artisanal and sustainable approach, the aesthetics of the film organically emerged. The film's protagonist, Angel, and it assumes the role of a seed trader, embodying the specialised knowledge about the intricate world of plants and their life cycles. This thematic thread intertwines with recurring visuals of mesmerising extreme close-ups and lush greenery. This film invites audiences to re-evaluate our relationship with the world we inhabit. It prompts contemplation of the intricate connections between humanity, nature, and the urgent need for sustainable coexistence. By Craig Williams.
The Herald on the 3rd of October, and the news section. Suella Braverman Conference Speech, what Home Secretary said, by Gabriel Mackay. Home Secretary Suella Braverman delivered her speech at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester on Tuesday, undeterred by protests both inside and outside the hall. The MP for Farnham has proved controversial since her appointment in 2022, and one of her own party members disrupted the speech. London Assembly member Andrew Boff was escorted out after attempting to shout Ms Braverman down for her comments about the LGBTQ+ community. He told the PA news agency this Home Secretary was basically vilifying gay people and trans people by this attack on LGBT ideology or gender ideology. It is fictitious, it is ridiculous. It is a signal to people who don't like people who are LGBT+ people. Here are the key points from the Home Secretary's speech. Immigration. Unsurprisingly, the Home Secretary devoted much of her speech to discussing immigration and asylum seekers. Ms Braverman is herself the daughter of immigrants from Mauritius and Kenya who came to Britain in the 1960s. She said, one key factor reshaping our world is unprecedented mass migration. The wind of change that carried my own parents across the globe in the 20th century was a mere gust compared to the hurricane that is coming. Today, the option of moving from a poorer country to a richer one is not just a dream for billions of people, it's an entirely realistic prospect. Most asylum claims in the UK are successful. In 2021, the estimated overall grant rate where a final outcome has been reached was 77%. Travelling to another country to seek asylum is not illegal and is protected under international law. Speaking of which, Ms Braverman said, the public know another thing, that the future could bring millions more migrants to these shores, uncontrolled and unmanageable unless the government they elect next year acts decisively to stop that happening. Our country has become enmeshed in a dense net of international rules that were designed for another era, and it is Labour that turbocharged their impact by passing the misnamed Human Rights Act. I'm surprised they didn't call it the Criminal Rights Act. Human Rights Act 1998 enshrined into British law the rights contained in the European Convention of Human Rights. The Conservative government has been hostile to the Act and to the ECHR, which is a separate body to the European Union, which has blocked deportations of asylum seekers to Rwanda. Ms Braverman has contended that having to abide by the ECHR means the UK is unable to effectively manage its domestic affairs. So supporters of the Act argue that its repeal would be in breach of the Good Friday Agreement and could lead to withdrawal of the EU from international law enforcement and judicial cooperation matters. The only other countries in the region not signed up to the ECHR are Belarus and Russia, which was expelled following the invasion of Ukraine. War on woke. Inevitably, there was plenty of talk about the woke. Ms Braverman said the British people face a choice of whether to curb woke with Rishi Sunak or let it run riot with Keir Take the Knee Starmer. Taking the knee has been used as a non-violent means of highlighting racial injustice in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement. It resonated with NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick, who opted to kneel during the US national anthem to highlight police mistreatment of ethnic minorities. Mr Sunak has previously said he had enormous respect for those taking part in non-violent action during the Black Lives Matter protest. Ms Braverman said, we stand with the many, the law-abiding, hard-working, common-sense majority against the few, the privileged woke minority with their luxury beliefs, who wield influence out of proportion to their numbers. Ms Braverman also pledged to introduce legislation to prevent sex offenders from changing their names to avoid detection. She said, we will bring forward legislation to prevent registered sex offenders from changing their identities. We will work to strengthen background checks so that they can catch undisclosed changes of identity. Ms. Braverman further said she didn't care if this breached the human rights of people on the sex offenders register, continuing, "It's time to worry less about the rights of sexual predators and more about the rights of victims." Sex offenders are already required to inform the authorities of any changes in their personal details, but Campaigner says this doesn't go far enough, as it puts the onus on the offender to comply. There are around 67,000 registered sex offenders in Britain, with the BBC reporting that 729 had gone missing or were wanted for arrest between 2019 and 2021. Racism. Ms. Braverman also accused her political opponents of characterising attempts at immigration reform as racist. She said they've always used that smear. They tried it against Margaret Thatcher. It didn't work. They tried it against David Cameron. It didn't work. A couple of years ago, they even tried it against Winston Churchill, our greatest ever leader. It didn't work then either. And I can promise you this, it won't work against Rishi Sunak, and it won't work against me. Mr. Churchill's statue outside of Parliament spray-painted during the aforementioned Black Lives Matter protests due to his comments on race, which was considered extreme even by many of his contemporaries. The former Prime Minister described the white race as a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly wise race than Native Americans and Australian Aboriginals, advocated the use of poison gas against uncivilized tribes in reference to Kurds and Afghans. However, some historians have contended that Mr. Churchill evolved his positions over the course of his life. Richard Toye, author of Churchill's Empire, said in 2021, although Churchill did think that white people were superior, that didn't mean he necessarily thought it was okay to treat non-white people in an inhumane way. And that was by Gabriel Mackay. The Herald on the 3rd of October, and the news section. Scott Wright, major threat to Scotland's hard-pressed pubs. The impact of continuing staff shortages in the Scottish hospitality trade was writ large in the findings of a new survey published today. According to the latest snapshot poll from the Scottish Licensed Trade Association, 68% of outlets are understaffed and 72% are struggling to fill vacancies. The reasons behind the shortfall are numerous, with Brexit, pandemic effects, and moves by people to change their lifestyles in favour of more sociable working hours all playing a part. But regardless of the causes, it is feared that a critical lack of staff is affecting people who work in the industry today because of the extra pressure it brings and its ability to thrive in the future. That is what worries me, says Paul Waterson, spokesman for the SLTA, in an interview with the Herald today. We are not going to be attractive to the young entrepreneurial guys who are going to take us forward. Unfortunately for the Scottish pub trade, a shortage of staff is not its only problem. Costs continue to be a real headache. Trading remains below pre-pandemic levels for nearly 60% of operators, and almost 70% are expecting further economic decline. In these circumstances, it's no surprise that the SLTA survey found that as much as 9% of businesses said they are planning to close or consider their options. What then can be done to alleviate the pressure? On this point, the SLTA is clear. If costs continue to rise and turnover moves in the other direction, some help from government is essential, be in the form of a cut to value-added tax or relief from business rates. In previous surveys, we warned that it would be economically viable for many outlets to remain open, wouldn't be economically viable. And we are now seeing this come to fruition, with a worrying 9% of outlets either planning to close or considering options, Mr. Wilson said. Scotland's pubs and bars face a continued barrage of economic challenges, and we call on the UK and Scottish governments to assist us in dealing with these challenges. And that was by Scott Wright.
That concludes this week's edition of the Herald Scotland podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Tune Review and to tell your friends about our service.